Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this BE-terna webinar, Build the Apps That Build Your Business. I'm very happy that you have signed up for this webinar and would like to spend 45 minutes in my company to listen in on the Microsoft Power Platform and also how we have applied the Power Platform at various customers. Today I will just touch briefly upon the Power Platform, what are the components of the platform, and also show you some inspiration to how you can apply it out there in the industry. I would like to say that if you have any questions during the webinar, you can post them in the Q&A in this live event. And I'll try to answer them in the end of the webinar. If not, we will round send the answers afterwards, perhaps. So let's go. So here I have a picture of one of my friends. Let's call him Robert. And there's been at least at the time being, there's a lot of concerns and discussion about using robotics and AI and automation throughout the industry. And if you look at the face of this guy, I'm a bit puzzled if he's actually happy or sad or worried about the future. But if we should relate that to the current state of the industry, I think we should not be worried too much about robotics and AI and what's coming in and impacting our daily work. Because if we look at some numbers that has been investigated and come from some research by Gartner and Microsoft, we see that actually half of the digital work that is being performed in the industry today can actually be automated by the current technology. So that means by the rise of ChatGPT, by the rise of local platforms like Microsoft Power Platform, there is actually a lot of work that we can digitalize and free up more time for the work that actually has a value out there and where we need manpower to do it. So the whole idea is, of course, that we can spend time on what is providing value for the business. We also see or looking into a future where there will be produced 750 million more apps than what in the next 5 years than what has been produced in the last 40. So the evolution within applications, business applications, is huge. And there's a big need for local platforms for intelligence and automation out there because we can't keep up with these numbers, that's for sure. And the reason why we can't keep up with these numbers are that we see up till 86% of companies are struggling to hire IT professionals and tech talent. And that is, of course, a great challenge that we need to deal with and try to come up with solutions for. One of the evolutions we are looking into now is actually that a lot more collaboration is happening between professional developers and what we refer to as citizen developers who can do low-code applications like apps, like automated workflows and stuff. And that is a really interesting tendency because if we look into the landscape of employment in the next 10 to 15 years, again, we have this, what Microsoft and Gartner refers to as a developer gap. So we have a challenge that we have a big demand for software, but the supply of developers are not following at all. So again, we have this issue with 750 million applications that will be built over the next 5 years. That is a 5 times faster demand for applications in the industry, which we cannot deliver with the current workforce. So we need to find ways to empower non-professional developers to actually do software development. And that's where Microsoft Power Platform comes in very handy and is a very, very great platform to actually help decreasing this gap between developers and the demand for software. In addition to this developer gap challenge, we also have some other challenges out there when we go and talk to customers, and I think a lot of you can look into and recognize these challenges as well. And one thing is, of course, that we're always looking into a budget constraint when doing IT projects. So there's maybe budget for 1 or 2 bigger IT projects during a budget year. But we have a lot of small, desires and small applications that we would like to have built, which there's no budget for. The Power Platform is a much faster and simpler way to produce applications, and budget-wise, it's much smaller than, for instance, a ERP or CE implementation. We also have always a time and resource constraint, so we're always looking into big projects with a lot of manpower put into it. If we use low-code platforms, we can reduce the time spent on developing software. We can reduce the number of resources going into it, so that's also a really positive thing. There's also some rising expectations among your users in the industry. So the end user on the shop floor or on the warehouse or the service technician driving around the countryside, they are getting bigger and bigger expectations to using mobile devices to have a simple and flexible way of working. They don't like to open up for a laptop and go into a complex ERP system. So there are some expectations that we can also meet with local platforms. Then we also see still that some customers do have processes based on paper solutions out there. And with local platforms, we can fast and easy actually turn these papers into electronic documents. We can store it in SharePoint lists. We can integrate to the Microsoft Office package. We can do a lot of things to digitalize these paper processes, also with a smaller investment in time and resources. Then if we look a bit more to the strategic and management part of IT management, there's also emerging a lot of new business models when we look into the digital age. So just all this fuss about ChatGPT, that is already now turning around some business models. We saw it also with the subscription-based business models from Spotify and Netflix and so on. These new trends and emerging technologies have an impact on business models. So by local platforms and by delivering software in a faster pace, we are able to actually follow these new business models much more easy. We also do see out there that there is sometimes some challenges in the IT and business partnership, and this is the internal relations we're talking about here. So sometimes the business in a company may not feel they get enough from the IT department and from the IT investments. And there again, it's a bit back to some of the other points, but by having low-code capabilities within your IT organization, you are able to meet some business requirements much easier and much faster. The whole point about the local platforms are, of course, that we have agility, much more agility than we do when we have to customize an ERP system or a CE system or a warehouse management system. With local platforms, we can easily go and tweak the software application, and we can change and adapt to new requirements. We also have the need for differentiation. We can differentiate a lot by doing low-code applications because it's not some standardized applications, so we can build it fit for purpose. And of course, as I talked about a bit earlier, we are back to solving this technical shortage of technical skills. So by local platform, we can actually empower our non-professional developers to build applications. Last but not least, we also have the whole area about security and compliance. When we apply the Microsoft Power Platform, we have a lot of security guidance and compliance in place just by using the Microsoft stack. We will have a lot of security provided by Azure and the whole Microsoft technology stack. So we also covered where we find there compared to some other local platforms. So enough about why we should use local platforms, why the Microsoft Power Platform is a really good thing to do. So how does it actually work out there? So if we look into the Power Platform, we have a number of different components on the platform. I know that Microsoft like to say that it's the world's most complete set of integrated low-code development tools. But I tend to agree with them, because there is a lot of things we can integrate to. We have a lot of possibilities by applying these different components you see here. So if we go from left to right here in the middle, we have the main components of the Power Platform. These are the tools that the end user will experience, the tools that they will help them go through the business process and help them to become more efficient and effective. And the first component we have is Power Apps, and that's basically the ability to build mobile applications. For mobile, for web browsers, for tablets, for scanner devices, whatnot. We can also get them actually on iWatch and so on. It's available on all devices as I can think of. It's probably the most used tool on the Power Platform, because I think it's really close to people to work with apps. People know it from their daily life working with apps. So people can think up a lot of good ideas and have a lot of inspiration to actually build apps. Next, we have another used tool, a much used tool out there is the Power Automate, which was formerly known as Flow. But it's basically building automated flows within your business. We have some different types of workflows that we can automate, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. But with Power Automate, we are able to do approval workflows. We are able to do automated business processes, and I think this is where Microsoft and Gartner has come up with some of the percents for the 50% of all digital work out there can be automated, because we can automate a lot. We can actually mirror a full business process just by clicking and recording it, and then we can put it into an automate state. So a lot of use cases here as well. Third, we have Power Virtual Agents, which is basically chatbots that we can use throughout our business. The best use case here is probably that you have some field workers that has to request some certain data from your, for instance, your ERP system. So if they would like the on hand for some spare parts when they are out there maintaining a wind turbine or whatever, they can actually just ask a chatbot in Teams, and it will come up with the numbers automatically. That could be one use case, instead of the field workers having to call a service department or having to look it up themselves in the ERP and spending a lot of time on that. So again, here we have a lot of use cases. We don't see it have that much traction in the market yet, but I think over time, also with ChatGPT integrated to this, it can become a very interesting component of the Power Platform. Fourth, we have the Power Pages. And Power Pages is the new kid on the block, so to speak, for the Power Platform. So here we got the possibility to make small business websites, also by low code. We can also take it to the next level with a bit more professional development to build more external centric power portals for instance, for customers or for suppliers. So that we also do see some traction for. We see some interest out there for building portals for external parties communicating with your company. And I'll also get back to that in a couple of minutes. The last component is Power BI, and I think all of you know Power BI and have probably tried playing around with it. And it's of course, I don't want to spend too much time on that. But yeah, data exploration, analytics, and reporting for your business can be done by Power BI. Yeah. Underneath these 5 main components, we have the pillars of the Power Platform, you could say. So the first part is the data connectors. If we look at data connectors, I think now we are on plus 400 standard connectors, which we can apply for each of the components up here. So that means that if we have a Power App, or we do have a Power Automate that we want to fetch data from Twitter or from, you could imagine all kind of systems for Salesforce or something, then there is standard connectors to do that. So it's just clicking it and applying it for your application, and then you can actually hook onto data for that specific software. And that's a really strong selling point for the Power Platform, that we have these out of the box. We also have the possibilities within data connectors to connect to our own data. We can either create gateways on our internal network to connect to data from, for instance, older ERP systems, or to own developed software, own developed databases. And we can also build custom connectors. So, for instance, if you are working with a customized PIM system or something, and you can expose an API from that software, then you can actually build a custom connector and hook onto data by these API endpoints. Also, really easy when you learn how to work with it. So a lot of agility and flexibility in connecting to data. Then we have the AI builder, which is also one of the components here that is really getting a lot of traction. And the AI builder is right now holding text recognition, voice recognition, picture recognition, and Microsoft is just investing in this area, and it will get more and more features and capabilities going forward. And the AI builder is also the one that is used for the new invoice workflow within the Microsoft space. So it can recognize incoming invoices. It can recognize the purchase order numbers, the supplier name, whatever. You map it, and then you can train your models, and then it can actually just screen the PDF documents and provide you with the necessary information for doing your invoice registration. So that is it's a really interesting area. We also do have Microsoft Dataverse, and probably a lot of you have also heard about it, worked with it perhaps. And Microsoft Dataverse is the data foundation for the Power Platform. Microsoft Dataverse is also the foundation for Microsoft Customer Excellence. And people working with Microsoft CE knows the Dataverse platform quite well. But we can also use the Dataverse to store data and use it across all of these applications. So that is a really good tool as well. You can create your own tables and structures, and you can use all the logic from calculated fields and field validation and security around your data models. So again, you get a set of standard components with a lot of prerequisites and content. So So that is an interesting thing as well. Fourth, we have what Microsoft refers to as PowerFX. And PowerFX is the language used for low-code applications. It resembles a bit like Excel VBA coding, and it's the language that is used across all the applications up here. So if you get above the level where you do drag and drop of objects into your apps, for instance, then you can start building logic and different things by using PowerFX. So it has now now the Power Platform has its own language, and it also have a lot of all the language and methods from what we know from Visual Studio and stuff. So it's becoming more and more easy to work with the coding within the different components up here. Last but not least, we have managed environments. And managed environments is basically just how to administrate the Power Platform. And within this, there is a lot of management of different environments. When we build Power Platform applications, we like to have development environments, test environments, and production environments, as you know it from traditional development. But it's also in here that we can manage all the security of users. If there are specific data layers that we have to enforce and so on. So with all these components together, we have a really strong foundation for building low-code applications, but we also have the possibility to scale it to more professional developments. And that's what also to refer back to my numbers, that we see a much more increased collaboration between professional developers and citizen developers, is because the Power Platform is now becoming more and more tailored to professional development as well. That also means that if you are starting building up Power Platform applications within your business and you meet the wall, so to speak, that you can't really progress and you can't not move your solutions further, then you can reach out to us, for instance, and we can help you with the professional skills to actually improve your solutions even more. Yes, I have touched upon the different components. Today I will show you some demos from some customer solutions we made, and I will show them within the Power Apps, the Power Automate, and Power Pages. So I'll just spend a few minutes talking a bit more into these three different components of the platform. If you want to learn more or see cases or examples of the other things, you can always reach out afterwards, and we can structure a demo of some of these applications. The Power Apps, as you see here to the far right-hand side, is basically apps on your phones, on your tablets, or on a browser. Power Apps is developed in what is called a Power Apps Development Suite, which is, of course, accessed from a browser. Web browser, and when you deploy your solutions and you publish it for the end users, they can access it via tablets, phones, and scanner devices, for instance. Some of the takeaways from Power Apps is, of course, that we can build business apps much faster and easier than traditional app development. We have had some few cases where we have customers that have got offers from traditional app developers, and where we have tried to build it via the Power Platform. And what we see is that it is more faster and easier to deploy and easier to get off the shelf and get out to production. The second thing in here is that we can empower everyone to do it, actually. So it's not a question about having professional developers to do it. If you have simple business applications that you would like to build, it's possible for almost everyone to do it. And as I just spoke about before, it's able to take your app to the next level. So if you have started and you have built a small application that you would like to evolve even more by some advanced components, some integrations to specific data, or whatever, then it is able to build upon your solution and send it over to a professional developer who can expand it even more. The scalability, as I also talked about, is really in place. So we can scale it to a lot of users. We can scale it to different markets. We can do a lot in terms of scalability without going on constraint with security and governance around the applications. And then, of course, with the one platform thoughts, Microsoft has actually enabled us to hook onto a lot of different connectors, as I spoke about. We can take advantage of AI, analytics, we can implement chatbots, whatnot, mixed reality, as it also says here. We can use the camera on our mobile device, and we can use that for a lot of mixed reality components as well. So there is a lot of possibilities, and Microsoft is just expanding this area. So a lot of good possibilities with the Power Apps. If we look at the Power Automate, on the other hand, of course, the creation of Power Apps looks a bit different, but it is basically a drag and drop way of creating workflows. And these workflows will again be able to be executed from mobile devices and tablets and so on. But for the end user, Power Automate flows are a bit more in the background, because that's something we usually set up to trigger an approval flow. And then it's only the final approval that will happen from a mobile phone or whatsoever. But all the logic and stuff is built within your Power Automate development suite. But if we look into, for instance, approval workflow, then we will receive the approval on our mobile phone, and you can either via Teams, mail, or the Power Automate app, you will be able to approve or reject this specific approval. And again, for Power Automate, we do have different possibilities to build solutions. So we have traditional RPA, robotic process automation, where we simply do a desktop flow where we mirror what the end user is doing. We will record it, and Power Automate will then be able to execute this specific sequence of business actions in a recurrent mode. We can also use AI. So again, we can implement, as I said, for the invoice workflow, for instance, we can implement text recognition. So we can take out only the necessary information from a vast amount of documents in a short time. We also have the possibility to do digital process automation, which is basically cloud flows. So by a cloud flow, I mean that we can, for instance, hook onto a Power App, and from that Power App, we can start or initiate a flow. We can initiate a flow from within Dynamics 365 F&O or Business Central, and then we will initiate a flow that can also again be integrated to one of all these connectors that we do have built in for the Power Platform. And last but not least, Power Automate can also be used to business process management, to actually document business processes and have the automation based on these business processes. For instance, that could be for the use for automated testing, that you build up a business process management library. Last thing I would like to go a bit more into depth with is the Power Pages, and that is probably one of the components that is most unknown to you guys out there. And it's also a relatively new component for the Power Platform. But the Power Pages is, as I mentioned shortly, a possibility to build web pages again, fast and efficient, and get something in production in a short time. And actually, no coding is required if you want to build a very simple web page that your customers have to go in to see some information or get some information. But we can also build without boundaries, as it says here. So if I build a simple web page and it meets the initial requirements from my customers, but they soon ask for a lot of new requirements that I can't really build by low code, then we can reach out to a professional web developer, and they will be able to build upon this web page by traditional web page development tools. It's the sharing is also really good, and the web pages can be shared with only the for instance the external people we would like to have in there. So it's not like accessible for the whole world, but only for the people that we want to have to get access. And then again, we have the possibility to integrate to Power BI. So we have developed a platform for a customer where they have embedded Power BI reporting. So their external parties only have to log in one place, and then they can provide some information, they can get information, and they can also see performance by some embedded Power BI dashboards. So the company don't have to round send a lot of reports every month. Now the external parties can go in and get the data in live feeds. So that's really strong. But yeah, let's move to some few customer cases that we have created out there. Some success stories. So I will just swap around to do some live demonstration here. So that's going to be interesting. So the first one I will show, I'll just go back here. I think I listed them here. So I will show one application, which is a warehouse operation app, and it's a simple application, a standalone Canvas app built with Power Apps. The next one I will show is smart counting, so counting of goods in a store, also built by Power Apps, but integrated with the Power Automate to move data into D365 F&O. And the last one I will show is what we call sales reporting. That is the Power Pages I talked about just now, where we also have Power Automate to help enriching some data. So the first application I'm showing here is the warehouse app, and sorry for it being in Danish, but it's not translated fully into English yet. But as you see here, we have a welcome page where we have some user validation. So when I type in my user credential here, it's actually doing a validation against the ERP system if I am a valid user or not. And I got a message that I'm a approved user, so I can get on to do actually some work here. This app holds some basic warehouse features, like we can look up the on hand for some different items, of course. So when they are walking around, the warehouse workers are walking around the warehouse, and they would like to know if a certain item is on hand, they can just scan the item barcode, or they can, of course, type it in. And when they do that, we get the data instantly from the ERP system. So we see for this particular item, I do have a lot of items on hand. I can also go the other way around and actually take the location and search out for that one. And then when I search out the location, you see I get 2 items on this particular location. And this may seem like a really simple feature, but in reality, just looking up on hand like this, the warehouse workers tend to go to a stationary station on the warehouse where they have to look up on a laptop the on hands, but now they can do it directly from the Power App. We also have the possibility to do production order picking. So in here, they will be able to scan a production order, and from this production order, they will see if there is an existing production order or if there was no existing production order, they could create one from the bill of material. And then they just click on the existing picking order, and then they can see that they have 68 lines that have to be pre-picked for this production order. And then again, they just go one step further in, and they see all 68 lines that they have to pick. And when they get out to the different locations to pick it, they simply just click the line, and then they will scan the item number, the location, and the batch number, and then all good. So yeah, a lot of possibilities in here. They can also, if we go some steps back, they can also print labels. If they need a label for a specific item, they can print it. You see that we have all the printers in the warehouse available, the different types of labels and such. So this is one example of how we have used Power Apps to build an application that has really created value for the warehouse workers. They could have selected a traditional and standard warehouse application, but that perhaps becomes too complex to configure. And they could also have asked for a traditional app development house to build this, but that has probably also become quite expensive because they don't know the data model and so on for the ERP system, where we can actually just connect through a data gateway. Going on to the next application I will show is the sales reporting portal. So this is a portal for external stores logging into a warehouse here where they can provide some information. And as you see here, this is a web page and a simple portal where we have some out-of-the-box components, for instance, for signing in here. So this signing in here is provided out of the box by the Power Pages, and all the user managing here is also coming out of the box from Microsoft. And I can simply log in here with my user, and then I get in here, and then you see it's coming in Swedish. I would like it in English instead, translate to English. And then you see I have some different possibilities up here. And what it's all about here is that we would like some externals to provide some information about sales numbers. And you can see that every day I go in, it will create the daily records, and I also have some information I haven't typed in. So so it's basically just an easy way for our externals to provide us some information about how the sales has gone these days. And then I can submit my numbers. And once I do that, these numbers are stored directly in Dataverse. It also gives me a weekly overview, so I could take my test numbers here and I'll apply this filter, and then you see it's summing up the numbers I have done for this week for my BE-terna test company here. All this data is stored here in Dataverse. So this is Dataverse, and as you see, I have my 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I just filled out Tuesday here, the numbers you just saw typed in, and they are instantly stored within the Dataverse database. So all this data can then be used for reporting or whatever we would like to use them for. If, for instance, I have a record here, you see we have some estimated numbers as well. So if a external is submitting some numbers which have 0 in value here, we actually have a Power Automate flow that is estimating the values based on the previous reports from the previous weeks. And that is done by Power Automate. So Power Automate is looking for the weeks, the previous weeks, and is calculating the average. So we also ensure that we have some numbers for the analytics, so they can use some numbers. So if they have 0 value up here, they will use the estimated numbers instead. And that is easily done by a Power Automate flow. Then we have the last solution I will show, and that is the counting application, which we have done for another really good customer. And this is counting items in shops. Also really easy and a flexible way of doing it, and the end user has a really good experience doing this. So they can start account here in the store, and they will provide some area here that they are counting and some sectors that's required for the accounting journals. And then you see we have a counting screen here. And the counting screen is basically just scanning the barcodes of our items. So I could provide a barcode here, and once I provide this, you'll see we get the item name, and I can provide the information how many have accounted for this specific item. I can delete it again, and so on. Once I have scanned all the barcodes for this area I'm counting, then I can save and export it to D365 F&O. And then it will prepare to export the data. What I would like to put some focus on here is actually not the app itself, it's more the flow that is behind it. So what you saw happened when I clicked the send button is actually that it triggers a Power App trigger here. So once I click that button in Power App, it initiates this flow where we set some initial variables, some initial values, for instance, the time of the count. And it's also collecting some other data. So you'll see it collects some barcodes, the area that I collected, the journal number that I was in, and the product number that I counted. All this data is then sent via a standard connector from Power Platform to D365 F&O. So it will create a records in F&O, and if it fails, it will retry, and if that also fails, it will go into a delay and send that information to us. So let's try and run this flow once. So we have the numbers here. So over here, if we just ignite this one. Up running. Just search out the warehouse. So if you look at this journal, that's the journal I'm going to update. Right now it should be empty. So you see I have no journal lines in this this journal. So when we run the flow here, it spins for a few seconds, and now you see it run through all this. So it collected some data for us. So we got all this data, yada yada yada, and now it's trying to apply it to D365 F&O. And you see this the seconds counter here. So right now it takes a few seconds, and took 18 seconds, and now we should have the record over here in F&O. Yeah, there it came. So again, an easy way to combine Power Apps and Power Flows to actually build some good applications that were more heavy to build in future. So see, the time is running out. I managed to show you the demos I planned. So just browsing back to my slide deck here. Please. Yeah. So what I really would, what I hope we have accomplished today is just to inspire you by the use of the Power Platform, how it can be utilized in your business, and how we can turn your bright ideas into brilliant apps. At least our experiences with the Power Platform and the customers that we have helped building up a Power Platform universe is really good. It's really good experiences, and at least for the end users, they really get a lot of good ideas when we are talking apps and automated flows, Power Pages and chatbots with them. So I hope this can ignite some discussions in your business, and that you go back to your business stakeholders and try to mention these things for them. And if you need help to get started or get the ideas running, you can always reach out to us. We do catalyst workshops where we are trying to do design thinking and get all the good ideas out of your business. So so hope you have gotten inspired and that you would like to connect afterwards with whatever. If you need help, if you need good advice or guidance, we are here to help. So you can reach me on these contact informations. And then I would also like to mention that with the tag up here that we are hosting Microsoft App in a Day workshops in Aarhus and Copenhagen in late May, and we are also hosting it in the Netherlands and Sweden if we have any participants from those 2 countries. So yeah, there will be a mail sent around later to sign up for these workshops. So that's all from me. Thank you for today and for your participation. I hope you enjoyed. Bye.